Hey guys, Lindsay here. I'm gonna do a little story time today. I wanted to talk about how I went years thinking I wasn't a creative person to painting all the time and realizing that I had been basically lying to myself for years and not knowing it. And hopefully, if you're in a similar boat that I was in about 5 years ago, then this video will help you, or my story will help you and get you out of those limiting beliefs that are holding you back from creating. And also, if you're looking for a way to start creating or expressing yourself and you don't know where to begin, click the link in the description because I do have a free creative expression kit. It is 5 coloring pages and 5 journaling prompts. They go hand in hand. They are printable. So if you don't have a printer, grab a piece of paper and read my journaling prompts and start expressing yourself now because it is so healthy for you. And yeah, so basically, I went my whole life telling myself I wasn't creative, and every time I would see someone making art or drawing or whatever it was, I would always kind of beat myself up and just I would look at them and be like, gosh, like why can't I do that? Or I could never do that. I can't even draw a stick figure. I'm not kidding, I said it so many times. And I would beat myself up. And so in 2021, I went through a really heavy depression, really dark time, and I basically would go to work and then I would go home and recluse myself in my room and I would numb out on my phone. And after a few months of doing this, I started to realize that I was watching a lot of art videos, and not any specific art form, like a wide variety. And I started to realize like how soothing it was for me. And so after those few months of kind of wallowing and you know, having my time, I decided to go to the store and I got some cheap canvases and some very cheap acrylic paints. And I went down to this little place by the water where I live and met up with a couple girlfriends, and we attempted to paint the sunset over the water. Spoiler alert, none of us painted what we were looking at. We all came up with actually pretty cool paintings, but what we went in trying to paint, like, it didn't happen. But that's what started it for me, was that first painting, like, especially doing it with my girlfriends, like, it was just so much fun. And so I went and I got a watercolor set because I'd always want to dabble with watercolors. And so what I would do is I would take canvas panels, which are not the stretch canvases, but they're like flat boards. And I would take a pencil and I would doodle random patterns and swirls and lines and just whatever I honestly felt like. And then I would color them in with watercolors or paint them in. And I really loved it. But after a while of doing that, I started to realize like just watercolors weren't maybe for me and I wanted to try something else. And at that time, I'd been watching a lot of videos of people doing fluid art, like fluid acrylic painting. And I was just so intrigued. And so I don't think I'll ever forget it. I was in my bedroom and I cut open a trash bag because I didn't have any plastic cloths to lay down or whatever. So I cut open a trash bag, made my own, and I attempted to mix my own paints. It did work. I would never do it that way again. I actually can't even really remember what I did. I just know that I thinned out my paints and I attempted my first acrylic pour paintings, and I still have them today. I can tell how much I've grown and progressed and learned since then, but yeah, it opened up a floodgate for me, guys. Like, I'm not even kidding. I became so obsessed. I went to Hobby Lobby. I got a bunch of pre-mixed acrylic pouring paints and I went to town. And then I was watching what I would consider on YouTube, actually, some masters of fluid acrylic pouring. There were some of my like really inspirational artists that I was following, and so I did some research and I learned how to mix my own paints. And nothing wrong with using the pre-mixed paints, but you are limited and there's only so many colors. You can make a lot of colors just by mixing, but I wanted no limitations. Plus I wanted to learn how to mix my own myself, because then you can get different consistencies and densities, and Anywho, so I started mixing my own paints and I started sharing my work with people, and much to my surprise, I was actually getting pretty good feedback. So I did a couple little art events in town, and I'll never forget the first one I did. I was scared to death because not only when you've went your whole life thinking you aren't creative and you start doing it, you do have some limiting beliefs that you have to break through, like I'm not good enough or I could never do that, whatever it is. So I was working through those, and then I was having to share my art with people, and it was a very vulnerable place to be. And I'll never forget sitting at my table, and some people would walk by and they would be excited. They'd be like, wow, like that's so cool. And then some other people would walk by and they'd be like, ooh. And when it first happened, I'm not gonna lie, it definitely was like, oh, ouch. But honestly, the more I've done this, like the more I've realized, and I want you to realize this, that we do our art for ourselves, not for other people. And so, yeah, heck yeah, if somebody likes what I'm doing, that's fantastic. If you don't, that's also fantastic, you know? We're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and our art isn't either, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as we are feeling good. And that was what it was for me. It's helped me heal so much. It has just helped me in so many ways, helped me release emotions, helped me transmute and work through emotions. And I guess that's the whole point of why I wanted to share my story today. And I'm sure as I continue doing videos, like we'll go deeper or whatever, I'll go deeper. But I just want any of you who maybe are in a similar position that I was about 5 years ago, you know, you're feeling just kind of in a funk and maybe depressed, and you want to start doing something, but you're scared to, or you don't think that you can. Whatever it is that's calling out to you, please, please try it. Just try. Like, you won't know if you don't try. And if I wouldn't have taken the leap almost 5 years ago to start dabbling, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. And I wouldn't be talking to you through this camera right now, you know? I wouldn't have anything to talk to you about. I mean, at least I wouldn't have this to talk about. And yeah, I guess I just really want you guys to find your creative outlets so you can start expressing yourselves and start healing and feeling better, just overall, mentally, emotionally, in all the ways. And yeah, once again, click the link below, get my creative expression kit, start expressing yourself today. And until the next video, much love guys, and I'll see you soon.